Russell Wilson suffered his first loss as a Steelers quarterback. And also, my top three teams for this week. Let's get into it. Russell Wilson and the Steelers lost their first game. Well, Russell lost his first game in the Steelers uniform against the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston, the animated Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns, which was seemed like almost an improbable game to lose, but it's a divisional rivalry game. And in a divisional rivalry, you expect that the games are going to be tough. And this game was definitely tough for Russell Wilson and company. The defense tried to save the game on a bunch of occasions, but the offense just couldn't get up to speed, and it cost them the game. Russell Wilson made some mistakes. It was a snowy game. It was a cold game, so I don't know if that had an effect on it. But Russell Wilson and company lost their first game under the Russell Wilson leadership as far as quarterback goes. And that's it for now, really. But we'll see if the Steelers are on a downward slope after this, if this is going to take them down, or if they're going to continue and start a new, a new lane and win more games. Here are my top three teams for the week in no certain order. But the Lions are number one. Well, in no certain order, but the Lions, for me, they're the most qualified team really to be number one here. The Lions could win running the ball, passing the ball, defense, special teams. They could win. They've had great games, and they've had terrible games, and still they managed to pull them out and win. And the only team I believe they lost to is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Lions, for me, are creme de la creme right now as it stands in the NFL. Next team, Kansas City is the next best team here, because Kansas City doesn't have a plethora of weapons, and most of their weapons are out on injury, and they're still winning games. Yes, they lost to the Buffalo Bills, but it was a close game. It was closer than it looked. Pat Mahomes made a bunch of mistakes, which for all intents and purposes gave the game away. And Buffalo, of course, capitalized on those mistakes, and they ended up winning the game against Kansas City. But right now, as it stands, Kansas City is still the number one seed in the NFL. Still the number one seed in the AFC. So, it is what it is at this moment in time. Teams are giving Kansas City their best shot, and for most of them, they didn't win. Buffalo Bills are the only team that came through and won the game. So for all intents and purposes, Kansas City still that it team, even though they lost to Buffalo. Next team here, the Buffalo Bills. They beat Kansas City, so they deserve to be part of the top three teams in the NFL this week. And Josh Allen is just playing tremendous football right now. Low ratio of turnover to touchdowns, and he's just playing super amazing, even though, again, in their defense, they had Dalton Kincaid out, they had Keon Coleman out, they had, some offensive weapons out, but they still managed to pull out the win, the W. Even though it was at home, they managed to pull it out. So I give kudos to them. And let's go back to the Steelers. The Steelers beat the Raven, but then they lose to the incompetent Browns squad. So they're a fecal team, and you can't really put a read on them right now in the season, even though it's past the midpoint of the season. And Russell Wilson's their quarterback. They're still very fickle, and can't really judge them for what they bring to the table, because they look good, but I'm not sure that they're that good, and I'm not sure come the end of the year they'll be there to compete. So the jury's still out on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see how they do in the next couple of games, because the schedule is a little bit lighter, but they have to play the Browns again, and they have to play Baltimore, and I believe they may lose to Baltimore. Actually, they may lose to the Bengals, and they may beat the Browns, but they may lose to the Bengals, and they may lose to Baltimore a second time around. So we'll have to wait and see who takes this division. But Russell Wilson has gotten his first loss of the season, and will this be a positive or negative for him? And would it possibly give him the opportunity and light the fire underneath him to continue to play better football and grow under the Steelers organization? Or will this be the downfall of him? It's yet to be determined because the jury's still out on them.